Welcome back, my fellow addicts. I have another golf ball review for you today. We are continuing on with the cut line and we're moving right into the cut gray. Let's dive right in. Guys, if you love this content and you'd like to support the channel, there's a couple ways you can do it. One, you can actually join our membership. It starts at $1 a month, but it really helps the channel out. Also, just watching, commenting, subscribing, liking, helping the algorithm out, that really helps grow this channel a lot. I know some of you might jump around when you're watching. The longer you let this video play, it really does help, because then it means you're engaged, you're watching algorithm stuff. So even if you're someone who just jump around, when it's done, if you could just leave it running in the background or something just to kind of add to it, I'd really appreciate it. It really does help, especially if you are here for the majority of the content. So we just got done testing the Cut Red. It was one of our favorites for a long time. It ended up testing really well. So now I'm interested to see how the Cut Gray does, because I did find out that although the Cut Red is amazing, now that I've upped my swing speed a little bit, it's not quite for me anymore. It's still an amazing ball, but just not quite what I'm looking for. So maybe the Cut Gray will be. It wasn't what I was before when I tested it a couple years ago, but now maybe it's moved into what I'm looking, what I actually need as far as my launch angle. So let's go ahead and talk about the price point. So now we've moved into a 3-piece urethane golf ball. And it's $24.99 a dozen, which is 25 bucks basically, add a penny. That's pretty incredible. There's a lot of golf balls that we've tested this year, like Legato, Wright and Ditson, and we've talked about how amazing it is that they are $29.99 and $34.99, things like that. Being $25 is almost silly, and I'll be real with you. When I hear $25 3-piece urethane, I think, it's too cheap. It's going to break. There's something wrong. It's too cheap. But when we did our test 4 years ago, we also proved that that really wasn't the case. Cut held up very well, especially, the models like the gray. The blue, not so much, but the gray, yes, gray held up really well. So it's a great price point. It's an amazing value score. They're easily accessible. You can still get them at Walmart. You can order them through Cut. They offer bulk discounts now. Now, I do want to talk about this real quick. I mentioned it with the Cut Red, but I want to get it out of the way now. If you use Cut's online ball fitter tool, I think it needs work. That's just my personal opinion. The Cut Red said it was basically for really slow swingers and people who shoot over 100. I was able to disprove that. We've been able to disprove that over the last 4 years. This one's a step up from that, and it says, I think it's like 80 mile an hour, 80 to 85 mile an hour, and if it's moderate swings, and if you're shooting, like I think 95, 85 to 95 if your score is. Again, I'm going to challenge that, because if you're shooting 95, I'm not going to recommend a 3-piece golf ball to you. I'm just not. I think you still need to use a 2-piece. You need to get a little better, more consistent. So I think the ball fitter tool maybe needs a little work, but that's just a suggestion. That's all it is. So let's get into the design of this golf ball. This one now, it again has that beautiful logo, which, I got it on this hat as well. It's a great logo. I love my Cut hats just because people always ask about the logo. It's a really well-designed one. You got the number there. This is the red number. Now, most Cut golf balls will look exactly like this going forward. So the Cut Red, the Cut Blue, the Cut DC, they're all going to kind of essentially look like this. So it's a really good design to it. Got the red 2 there. The logo looks great. This one doesn't look as cheap as the red did, because now you have that urethane cover. So it doesn't look super premium by any means, but you got to remember, you're only spending 25 bucks a dozen. So it's not going to look like a Pro V1 or like a TP5 or anything like that. The question is, does it still perform? So regardless of that, let's flip it around on the side. I mentioned in the Cut Red video, Cut was one of the first companies, these direct-to-consumer, to do like this really thick line here. It's an awesome alignment tool. I love it. It's easy to line up your ball, and it's very simplistic, and they just do this with all their golf balls. It has Cut on the left side, a dot there, as you can see, and then it says whatever golf ball it is on the right. So it's easy to identify the golf balls. It's easy to line them up. It's a really simplistic design, but man, it's stuck with me. And every time I see that logo, I really do love it. It was one of the first golf balls we tested on the channel. A lot of you really love them. We've talked about them. It's a staple here. So there's a lot of memories for me in that. So let's get out to the chipping and putting green. Let's see how it does around there. Okay, Cut Gray 3-piece. I expect there to be a little bit of checkup here. I don't know exactly how much I'm expecting, but let's see here. Good strike. Not bad. Had a pretty decently firm release, but it did actually act like it wanted to check up. It had some spin, which is good. Let's go ahead and try it again here. Not a pure hit. Again, very firm release. Spin-wise, I would put that somewhere probably around, not quite the middle, maybe just slightly below the middle. It acts like it wants to check up. I do believe that if I came off the green here, if I was doing a 20-yard pitch or chip or something like that, it would check up a little better, but being right here, there's just not enough check up. The ball doesn't have enough grip. Okay, open the face right there. again, you know, even on a really like nasty cut, you could see the ball spinning, but it just doesn't have that grip. Definitely, let's go ahead and try a couple more here. Again, I mean, ball pops up like there's bass effect. There's definitely rotation there, but the problem is it doesn't have enough, like, the coating on it isn't really sticky enough to get it to stop once it's done. It just shoots off like a rocket, and that's gonna be off for a couple people. So definitely in that lower line, like you see there, that's what I think I'm comfortable with for sure. All right, cut gray, got the mallet first, of course, being a little heavier, sounds a little dead. This is the cut gray, and you know, I mean, we just got done with the red, and the red was so phenomenal that I'm interested to see how this one does as well. So let's see what we got. So all that spring that the cut red, I don't know if you saw the cut red video, but if you haven't, you probably need to go watch it to understand this reference. But the cut red had so much spring and it was such a true roll. This one, I anticipated that, and I was actually pretty close to being short. Like, it's actually pretty amazing. This one does not have that spring. This one feels more tour-like. It's soft, it's deadening, there's a lot of feedback. I feel like the golf ball is actually getting compressioned from, I mean, I know it's probably not, but it's actually getting a little bit from this putter. That's just how it feels. It's really dead, there's no click. I mean, it feels good, but there's nothing unique about it. It's just pretty basic. Yeah, and see, that's the first time I've seen the chug effect. I didn't see it with the red at all. This one I'm actually seeing a little bit of chug effect. The roll's like a 9 out of 10, 8.5 out of 10 most of the time. Not a big fan of the feel. It's a little too dead for me, especially with this heavy mallet putter. If you're someone who likes just a completely dead feeling, maybe you'll like it, but I'm not a super big fan of that. Let's go ahead and try it with the blade putter and see if it's any different. All right, blade putter this time, old trusty, older style Odyssey. Let's see if there's any difference. Yeah, and the sound, you can already tell. That was a lot louder. There was definitely a click. Still not a super big fan of the roll, though. It just doesn't want to seem to have a true roll. I'm losing confidence. I'm getting frustrated. I'm like, that one had chug effect. This one doesn't. And I understand you might say, well, Nick, that could have been your putt. It could have been, but again, I just got done testing a cut red that the whole time I was laughing, having a good time, and I was completely confident in. So regardless of my skill level, the point is that if a golf ball is helping me overlook my skill level, it's a big difference. So again, let's take a look here. Now that was a good one. That's as good as it gets, baby. Okay. Again, I kind of mentioned this on, I can't remember which ball it was. I think it was the Cut DC, but I mentioned this on one of the wedge tests a minute ago, as I talked about how it does really well if you hit it awesome. And if you absolutely pure it and you hit it in the center and your swing's perfect, it does amazing. Anything outside of that though, and it's terrible. That's kind of how I feel with putting this ball. Like, the majority of my putts were wonky, didn't react right, went too far, went too short, had too much spring effect. But then if you hit one absolutely pure, yeah, it does its job. It does what it's supposed to. But if you're relying on me to do that every time, oh my goodness, you're gonna be here a while. Now, as far as the feel across all golf clubs with this ball, it's not quite as good as the cut red was. If you missed the cut red review, I talked about how it was like a 5 out of 5, and it just had this unique feel where it was so forceful and it had so much power, but it was so light. I mean, it was just incredible. It was like driving a Ferrari almost. This one isn't quite that good. It's still a great feeling golf ball. It still feels really good. It's buttoned up. It's professional. It kind of reminds me of a Bridgestone I just tested a couple balls ago. It's definitely a 4 out of 5. It feels really good. On mishits, depending on how bad the mishit is, it can kind of punish you a little bit, but the majority of mishits actually aren't that much different. The majority of the time, it's really good. There's a couple times if you really catch one off the toe, it might sting your hands a little, but it has to be egregious, which once we get to the point of egregious mishits, that's on you. Slight mishits are different. There's some golf balls, TP5X, that if you slightly mishit it, it rattles your hands and shakes your bones, and then you're rattled in your brain. That I care about. But if with this golf ball, if you slightly mishit it, you're still good. So it's a really good feeling golf ball for the majority of it. So let's get into these numbers. Let's dive right in and let's see how it does. All right, let's start with the 50-yard pitch. We're looking at 6,885, which is hilarious because that's about 400 RPM less than the cut red, even though that was a two-piece golf ball. It's not uncommon. I almost wonder how the launch angle was. The cut red, because it launched so high, it was able to get a little more spin. And because it was able to get a little more spin, that could be why the number was a little higher. 6,800 is a little low, but it's not a deal breaker because the reality is, I tested the Bridgestone XS, that was 6,300. I tested the Wilson Staff 24, that was 6,400. So there's a lot of $50 a dozen tour golf balls that are getting around 6,400, 6,500. And I really want 7,000, so 68 is close. We're only like 115 off. We're very close. It is a little low, but still, you got to remember what you're paying for here. I'm not expecting, I hold golf balls like the Bridgestones and the Wilsons and the Pro V1s to a higher standard because they cost a small king's ransom compared to $25 for a dozen. You know what I mean? $2 a golf ball. Huge difference. Getting into the 9-iron, we have a 1.34 on your smash factor, which is right in line. I got that with the cut red as well. 140.8, so I got about an extra 2 yards compared to the cut red. 140.9. Really good numbers there. 107.6, it basically had the same ball speed as the cut red. It did have a little less spin again at 6,885, but that's actually still above my average, which is awesome. And it launched just slightly lower than the cut red at 24.6. Those are really good numbers, and they're actually more toward on the path of what I would be looking for. So again, I talked about it in the last review, but the cut red just launched a little too high and had a little too much spin now that my swing speed's got a little better. I don't know if this is quite the cure, but we're heading in the right direction. It still launches high, but it's a little less high, and it still spins great, but not as, ridiculous as the other one did. So I actually really like those numbers a lot. Let's get into the 7-iron now. We're looking at 1.4 on your smash factor, which is a lot better than the red. It's above my average. 165.9, I got that extra 4 yards, awesome. 167.3, I got an extra 7 yards compared to my average, that's really good. 118.1 on the ball speed, which is phenomenal. I love that ball speed. 57.35 on the spin, which is, again, about 250 lower than the cut red, but it's still above my average. So I love the consistency there. That's really cool. I love the fact that it's very consistent. I love the fact that, so far, this one's been about 250 RPM lower than the cut red, but it has been consistently. So I'm just not going to get as much spin with this golf ball, and that's okay. The 250 RPM difference compared to a urethane cover will probably end up the same. It's going to end up just evening out and being the same because a urethane coating is going to grip a little bit better, but the cut red spins a little more. I think it just ends up evening out. Also, you did see there's a 18.3 launch, so it launched way less than the cut red did, which also is probably why the spin was a little less and why maybe there was a little bit more distance, which is great too. So those numbers I'm a lot better with. Getting into the 5 hybrid smash factor, 1.42, which is above average. 191.5, that's about 7 yards further than the cut red. 196, that's 11 yards, 10.5 more than the cut red. 130.6 on your ball mile per hour speed's incredible, but as you can see, there's a lot lower of a spin. I got 1,000 RPM less with the cut gray than I did the cut red. As far as that goes, I wish that number was just a little higher. I know I'm kind of getting a little picky here, but I really wish the spin was more around 5,000, kind of meet in the middle, not 1,000 difference, but like 500 difference, meet in the middle. And then, as far as the launch angle's right where I wanted it at 15.3. So that's actually really good. It's just the 4,600's a little low on the spin, and I'm getting a lot of distance, but maybe I'm getting a little too much distance. I'd like that dialed back just a tad. I know it's weird to complain about more distance, but when you're trying to get your gapping right and your consistency right, you're looking for, really good numbers there. I would trade about 500 RPM more spin to get, a little less yardage. Looking at the driver smash factor, 1.44, which is average, 227.1 on your distance, 5 yards less than the cut red, so that's something to keep in mind. 235.8, about 4 yards less. 143.3, a little less on your ball speed. 2681, pretty much the same with spin, and it launched lower, 13.7, so that's why. Is because the lower launch. So that's interesting. So this is the first time the launch has actually really hurt me. With the other golf ball, the cut red, it was 15.8, which was probably a little too high. But because of that height, I got a little extra yardage. This one's going to be lower. Maybe I'll get more roll out of it. So maybe in the end it'll all just even out one way or another. I'll get more roll with this one, but more carry with the other one. Who knows? The numbers are very close. They're still really good. Everything is still above my average. That's all I'm looking for here, is to make sure these are above my average. And so far, they're all really consistent and doing really well. All right, let's look at durability. That's kind of been one of the biggest issues with cut. We know on the red it was a lot better. Looking at this one in depth, 100 shots, looking at it, Again, it's like an 8.5 out of 10. I don't do half, so I got to give it the 9 out of 10. It looks really, really good. It still feels great all over. If I feel the entire golf ball, there's no scrapes, there's no cuts. I 100% feel confident putting with it. You know, there's no huge scrapes. There's a couple minor dings here and there, but it's 100 shots. You know what I mean? It's not designed. Most golf balls aren't designed to last longer than that. I'm impressed. You know, I think cut gray last time I tested these golf balls was actually one that ended up being the better durability out of the 4 I tested. So seeing it still maintain that and still maintain a really good score, surviving 100 shots, what can you say? All right, so in conclusion, we have another winner. You know what I mean? Now, as far as how high of a winner it is, I'm not sure yet. We'll have to see when the top 100 comes out. But this would be an amazing intro to a 3-piece golf ball if you think you're ready for a 3-piece golf ball. If you're someone who's been playing a 2-piece and you're getting better and your game's improving and you're kind of getting in that range where you're like, well, can I play a 3-piece? Is it possible? I can't imagine a better golf ball to start with than this because it is consistent, it's extremely inexpensive, it's durable, it's going to last you. It really checks all the boxes that a lot of golfers who are looking for that value but also looking to break into the market. This one and the Top Flight Gamer, you know, those two are just two great golf balls, but numbers-wise, I'd have to give it to this. I haven't tested the new 24 Gamer model yet, but based on the last time I tested it, this one definitely beats it a little bit, and so it could be for a lot of golfers in that regard. Now, if you're someone who just loves value, let's say you play like the Legato type balls, the $29.99, the 35, like Vice and that, this could be worth a shot because the thing is, it does perform really well. The numbers don't eye pop like Vice does, but it's also almost half the price of Vice. So if you're someone who is a weekend warrior and you're only going out once a month or so and you're just trying to save some money, this could be the good starting point to see. And then after that, you can go to Vice. But it's an amazing golf ball. It really is. I was surprised how consistent it was. It feels really good. It checks a lot of boxes. And unlike last time I tested it, there isn't really too many improvements to be made. You know, last time I was like, okay, you know, it does A, B, C well, but D and E, you know, that needs to be worked on. This time it's more like A, B, C, D, and E are all really good. None of them are perfect. None of them are eye-popping. None of them are amazing. But it just does everything really well. And if you remember correctly, that's how the Sugar Golf Ball got #1 last time. Not that it was perfect in anything. It just did everything really well. And so sometimes that's the way to make a really good golf ball. Guys, as always, keep watching, keep saving, keep learning. We have the Cut Blue up next. Did they fix the issues with the scraping of the cover after only 2 or 3 shots? I hope they did. We'll find out soon.